You know how some stories they feel like they're woven into the fabric of history itself. They're huge, they're emotional, and they get right to the heart of what it means to be human. Well, today, we're diving deep into one of those stories, the incredible tale of Joseph.
And it all kicks off with this, a coat. But not just any coat, right? We're talking about a robe of brilliant, impossible colors, a gift from a father, Jacob, to his absolute favorite son, Joseph. He's just 17, and he's got this energy about him, but this coat, man, it was so much more than a gift. It was like a spotlight, a declaration of favor that shone so brightly it cast a long, dark shadow of envy from his brothers.
And that's really the core question of this entire saga, isn't it? This is the journey we're about to go on. A wild ride that goes from the highest peak of favor, plunges into the deepest pit of betrayal, and then somehow rises to a level of power you just can't imagine. So let's get into it. Okay, so our story really ignites with a couple of visions that weren't just dreams. They were prophecies. And these were the sparks that were going to set Joseph's entire world on a brand new and pretty dangerous course.
And listen, these weren't just random dreams. There's a serious escalation here. The first one, it's kind of earthly, sheaves of grain in a field, bold enough for sure, suggesting his older brothers would one day bow to him. But the second dream? Whoa, that went cosmic. The sun, the moon, his parents, and 11 stars, his brothers, all bowing down. We're talking a vision of absolute authority.
And this was their reaction. You could just hear the sarcasm dripping from their voices, right? For his brothers, these weren't just the kids' fantasies. This was arrogance, plain and simple. That envy that had been simmering over the coat for years, well, this just cranked the heat all the way up. It boiled over into a deep and really dangerous hatred.
So all that simmering hatred, it had to go somewhere, and boy did it ever. This leads us to the story's first huge turning point, where all that family jealousy just explodes, not into shouting, but into a life-shattering act of betrayal.
The way this all goes down is just chilling. They see him coming from a distance, that coat blazing like a target. They don't just take it, they rip it off of him, basically stripping him of his identity. Then they throw him in a pit to die, and they just ignore his screams. And then a caravan shows up, and their hot-headed anger suddenly turns into something much colder, much more calculated.
You have to understand, this was about so much more than just a piece of clothing. Tearing that coat was symbolic. With that one act, they ripped apart the very fabric of their family. They tore trust, they tore brotherhood itself.
And this is what they got for it. 20 pieces of silver. Think about that. The cold, hard price for their brother's life. It just reduces a human being, their own flesh and blood, to a piece of property. The emotional cost was off the charts, but the price in silver? It was shockingly small.
So Joseph is sold, he's shackled, he's dragged to Egypt, a totally foreign land. And you might think, okay, that's it, story's over. But nope, not even close. This is where his character is really going to be forged in fire.
Even as a slave, Joseph's integrity it shines through. He gets bought by this high-ranking official, Potiphar, and he doesn't give in to despair. Instead, he works so well that everything he's in charge of just flourishes. Potiphar sees this. He sees that there's something special about this kid, and he promotes him to run his entire household. It's an incredible rise from rock bottom.
And right here, you start to see this crazy pattern in Joseph's life. First, he serves with excellence and earns trust. Second, he finds favor and gets promoted. And then third, boom, he gets betrayed. Again. Potiphar's wife makes a move on him, he refuses, and she falsely accuses him. So just like with his brothers, someone he should be able to trust brings him down, and he goes from running the house to being thrown in the king's prison.
And in that prison, man, the test gets even deeper. He uses his gift again, interpreting the dreams for two of Pharaoh's servants. He nails the predictions. One gets his job back. The other, not so much. And all Joseph asks is, hey, when you get out, just remember me. But he doesn't. He's forgotten. For 2 whole years, Joseph just waits in that dungeon, a forgotten man.
But destiny, well, destiny hasn't forgotten him. And now we get to the most dramatic plot twist in the whole story. A crisis hits the most powerful nation on earth, a crisis nobody can solve, and so they're forced to turn to a forgotten Hebrew prisoner.
So, Pharaoh, the king of the world, is having these terrifying nightmares. Fat cows getting eaten by skinny cows, healthy grain being swallowed by withered stalks.
Nobody in his kingdom can figure it out, but Joseph, dragged out of the dungeon, he gets it instantly. He tells Pharaoh it's a message from God. You're going to have 7 years of incredible harvest, followed by 7 years of a devastating famine.
And you have to appreciate this moment. Standing in front of Pharaoh, Joseph has every right to be bitter, to be arrogant, to finally grab some power for himself. Instead, what are his first words? Humility. He says, I can't do it, but God can. He takes zero credit. After everything he's been through, his faith isn't just intact, it's everything.
And in a single moment, everything flips. Pharaoh is so blown away by his wisdom that he basically says, you're the man for the job. He elevates Joseph from a prisoner in chains to the second most powerful man in all of Egypt. From the pit to the prison to the palace, the dreamer's ascent is finally complete. It's unreal.
So, Joseph saves Egypt. Awesome. But the story isn't over, not by a long shot. It all comes to a head in this moment of redemption, where the past comes crashing into the present, and the real purpose behind all that suffering is finally revealed.
The famine hits everywhere, including back home where his family lives. So guess who shows up in Egypt, desperate to buy food? Yep, his brothers. And who do they bow down to begging for grain? This powerful Egyptian governor, who they have no idea is the little brother they sold into slavery 2 decades ago. That first dream, the one with the bowing sheaves of grain, it's happening right in front of them, and they are totally clueless.
After testing them and seeing they've actually changed, Joseph finally reveals who he is. And as his brothers stand there, absolutely terrified, expecting him to order their execution, he says this, maybe the most powerful, perspective-shifting line in the entire story. He doesn't just forgive them, he reframes their evil act as the very thing God used to save everyone.
And that's what it leaves us with, right? This final thought. Joseph's unbelievable journey shows us that sometimes purpose is forged in the fire of betrayal and injustice. It asks us to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the darkest moments in our own lives, the things that feel like the absolute end, might actually be part of a much bigger, much better story that we just can't see yet.